You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Iron Lady sings and makes it official. Welcome to the show. We certainly appreciate having you guys. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your family does, because, they still haven't forgiven you for that time you went streaking during Thanksgiving dinner. I just made that up. That was pretty good, huh? That's on my mind because we just had Thanksgiving dinner here in 2024. If you're watching this video on YouTube 10 years from now, don't write me. And Christmas is coming up. What better time? Our sponsor, streaking.com. No, I'm just kidding. Don't Google that. If you want to really impress the family this Christmas. Anyway, we have an amazing young man on the show today. We're going to be talking about how to sleep better. How many of you people like this sleep thing? Are you into the sleep thing? Well, he's going to help you sleep better. And he said, and I told him he has to guarantee that we're all going to fall asleep listening to the show. No, that's already happening every day anyway. So because it's kind of boring, I don't tell any jokes. He's the author of the latest books. That's all kidding, people. Anyway, I need some more sleep too. Why can't I sleep well? 150 common sleep questions asked and answered by Andrew Colsky. He'll be joining us on the show, and his book came out October 4th, 2024. If you're a person like me who struggles to sleep, stop snorting the cocaine. That's probably a good idea. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that, folks. It's bad. Anyway, jokes aside, Andrew is a distinguished attorney and licensed mental health clinician. He's an attorney too? What do you do? He sues sleep to get sleep? Is that how it works? Give me send a C&D to the sleep department. Either let me sleep or I'm going to sue you. He's a licensed mental health clinician and is a pioneering force in the field of sleep science, behavioral therapy, and mental health advocacy. He's known widely as the sleep science guy. And Andrew brings a unique blend of scientific rigor, therapeutic insight, and compassionate advocacy to his work, making him one of the leading voices in sleep, health, and wellness. I want to be a leading sleeper. And as the host of Sleep Science Today radio show, there's a radio show for it too, and founder of National Sleep Center, Andrew's mission is clear: to democratize access to high-quality sleep science and promote sleep as an essential pillar of well-being. I feel like we should have a mattress company as a sponsor for the show. Welcome to the show, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you today?
I am excellent. Running on 3.5 hours of sleep, too. So I'm your perfect victim or patient right now.
There you go.
Give us your .com. So where can people find you on the interwebs? So
two main places they can go. If they want to find out more about the radio show and everything related to that, it would be sleepsciencetoday.com. And if they want to learn more about the clinical practice, that would be nationalsleepcenter.com.
So I would go to do I come to your clinical practice and take a nap and all that stuff and yada, yada, yada?
We are a behavioral sleep medicine practice. So actually all of our work is telehealth because it allows us to get access to more people than just within a 5 or 10 mile radius of a particular location. And also, where do people have sleep problems? They have them at home. So we can talk to them while they're at their home about their sleep issues.
There you go. And so give us a 30,000 overview. What's in your new book? Why Can't I Sleep Well?
Yeah. So here's the deal. I'm sure that you and your audience and all have started to hear more in the media about sleep in general. And it's because the topic is so important. And based on new research that's continuing to go on, we're seeing how sleep impacts our mental health, our physical health, even potentially dementia and things like that. So people are really getting interested in sleep, but there's not a lot of good quality scientific based information out there. So my book is basically taking 150 of the most common questions, not only giving you the answers, but giving you all the scientific research behind it that supports the answers.
Wow. There you go. Sleep is so important. It's the time. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but why is sleep important? I'm just going to default to the professional.
Yeah, well, sleep is important because that's the time when basically your body rejuvenates. It's the time when all the things in your memory kind of solidify. And one of the things that's really important that we're still learning, so we don't have all the exact answers, but one of the things is when people get into what we call stage 3 sleep, which is the really deep sleep, that's when our brain tends to kind of wash itself. And so when we look at some of the chemicals that are related to dementia, then that's where the brain tends to wash those chemicals out. Now, we don't know enough about it for me to say that'll stop dementia, but we're looking at it.
Can we get it to stop stupid? No, there's a lot of stupid.
That one takes a little bit more. You got to pay extra for that one, Chris.
But my understanding, and I'm a layman in the business. I'm not even in the business actually, but I'm in the business of trying to sleep. Let's put it that way. But my understanding is that's when the body kind of does its repair to itself, and it regenerates maybe cells and I don't know, poops or something. I don't know what it's up to. Yeah, I'm asleep, so I don't notice.
Well, it does, and the interesting thing there is I was thinking back for myself when I was in law school, for example, I would try to stay up, and burn the midnight oil to do all this reading and remember everything. And I was so tired the next day. And what I didn't realize is that I would have been better off going to sleep because that's when my brain puts all that stuff into my memory and holds it there. But instead, I thought I was going to be the hero and just stay up all night.
Yeah. That way you remember stuff, but then by morning you're like, "What's my name?"
Right.
It's kind of where I'm at right now. It's interesting. It's interesting about all this stuff. And so, how long you been doing this now?
So I've been working in the mental health field part of this since about 2015, and more as I got into the work that I was doing, I recognized the importance of sleep, which is unfortunately they don't teach you anything at all about sleep when you go for a mental health degree, when you go for even, psychiatry, medical school. It's very rare to get any information about sleep.
Yeah.
So it's really important, but nobody knows about it.
Yeah. If I don't get sleep, there's murdering that will happen eventually. And the judge says I can't do that anymore. I get one of my 6 ankle bracelets off next week. It'll be nice because I'll jingle a little less. I love that joke. So why did you start Sleep Science Today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Basically, for the same reason that I wrote the book, because, sleep science itself is basically relatively new. It only really started in, let's say, the 1970s, where it even became a thing. And so there's a lot of new information coming out, but a lot of people don't have access to the actual science, to what's really going on. Why do I have these problems? And then they go and they get onto social media and they look for how am I going to, sleep better? And they get all this horrible misinformation, and then they still can't sleep well. So I said, you know what? Let's put out legitimate info for people to do better.
And I'll bring this up because I want to warn other people not to be as dumb as I was for 20 years. But when I was an entrepreneur, I'm still an entrepreneur, and I still have horrible ADHD and OCD. I think I've beaten the OCD. I don't give a shit about anything anymore. But ADHD, squirrel. And so one of the ways I would kind of knock myself out at night as an entrepreneur to kind of get myself to bed, and I actually really, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I don't know why. But I actually thought it made me sleep better. But I would actually drink vodka before going to bed, a nightcap. And I'm like, well, it'll make me sleep better. It'll knock my ass out, and I'll sleep better. And that was like the dumbest thing in the world for trying to sleep better, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people rely upon alcohol. Most of the time, you hear them talk about a glass of wine to go to bed, or nowadays, the CBD gummies or THC or any of these other types of things. And, they seem to be effective when you first use them. The
Hmm.
problem is the more you use them, the less effective they become. And when you look at the science, they're really not effective at all at getting you restful sleep.
Hmm. There you go. It's I don't know. And so even like pot and or edibles, like edibles really relax me, but for some reason we were talking before the show, they've kind of reached a point where they don't work on me more. I just kind of lay there and kind of have like weird pseudo not sleeping dreams. Like
Hmm.
I kind of go to this weird place
Yeah, and
and
that's I mean, you're hitting exactly the point is that
oh,
the more you use these things, the more you need, the less effective they become. And truly, when you're looking at the science behind it, they're not really effective in the beginning either. And
right.
so you then start setting up this situation where your body becomes reliant upon something that then doesn't work for you. And then you feel more frustrated. And my favorite thing is when people tell me, well, I was laying in bed trying to sleep. And to this day, I still don't know what that means. What does trying to sleep mean? Does it mean that you're laying there thinking about the fact that you're not sleeping, so you're getting more anxious so that you're not sleeping because you're anxious that you're not sleeping?
Hmm. I mean, sometimes it comes down to that because you're like sitting there going, I gotta wake up in 4 hours, like idiot boy. You gotta go to sleep, man.
Hmm.
Otherwise you're gonna be cranky and poo your pants and cry all the time, just like a little toddler. Um, and you were talking before. We were talking during the in the green room before the show, and you mentioned that age onset is also a thing that happens. Makes it harder as we grow older. You would think as we grow older, we're tireder, or we're just like I can't feel my legs anymore. I'm 50. I want to go to sleep. So you just go to sleep. Like my dad could nap like all the fucking time.
Hmm.
So why is that? That we can.
So, the research is pretty clear on that. And it shows that through our lifetime, our amount of sleep needed is different. So teenagers are typically going to sleep later and then need more sleep. Whereas once we hit about 40 years old, what you start to see is sleep problems creeping in, meaning that people wake up more in the middle of the night. Sometimes they wake up too early. If you talk about women in menopause, there's specific
Oh,
issues that come up there.
probably hot
Um,
sweats and stuff like that, or
exactly, and
hot
then that
cold.
wakes them up.
Yeah, that'll
So
do it.
yeah, so really the thing that's kind of scary is that again, looking at the science, when we're 40 years old, we don't really think that much about sleep. But if we're not getting good sleep and good diet and exercise,
Yeah.
that's when the science is starting to show where these dementia issues and other things slowly start to
Oh,
work in the background, but you don't know it yet until 10, 20 years later.
wow. I mean, there's a lot that goes into healing the body, your gut health. I guess how important is your diet and exercise to your sleep as well.
Yeah, and that's a great question because think about it. So people start to have trouble with their sleep and they come in. Most of the time they'll go to their primary care doctor or something and say, I need a sleeping pill. Well, I got a whole diatribe on sleeping pills that
Oh.
they're just they're not a good thing long term. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
But the main thing is, how do you expect to improve your sleep that's progressively gotten worse over time and not do anything to improve your exercise, to improve your diet, to improve your mental health?
Mm.
It's the whole picture because you're a whole person. You can't just separate out your sleep.
Hmm. And yeah, it's what do you think about some of these technology things? Are they kind of foo science too as well? I mentioned that I have an 8 sleep bed. I've had
Hmm.
one for several years. I do kind of like it. It's got an AI system that adjusts the heat and temperature to it like figures out when I go into REM sleep and gives me
Hmm.
reports. I know there's
Yeah,
a bunch of other stuff that's out there that people use.
there's a ton of new technologies coming out, and like everything, there's pros and cons.
Hmm.
So obviously, if you have a comfortable bed, if it's a cool environment,
Oh.
dark room, those types of things are all positive. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
technology that makes that happen, that's great. But I'll tell
Mm-hmm.
you one of the ones that's not so great, and it's a really popular one, and
Oh.
that's people start to wear these sleep trackers, whether it be an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Garmin or whatever, and it gives you this sleep score. And what happens
Uh-huh.
is people see like, oh my God, my sleep score is 89.
I
I need to do
flunked.
better. And so it creates this thing that we call orthosomnia, which is kind of like insomnia. And orthosomnia is this anxiety that you get because you're not getting a better sleep score. So you get anxious trying to not be anxious, which makes you more anxious and you get a worse sleep score.
Boy, there's nothing more human nature than that, isn't there?
Yep. Yep.
Damn it, I need to sleep better. I have anxiety, and then you can't sleep because you're all wake up all night. One thing I guess you can answer for us since you wrote a book of 150 answers and questions. What about blue light? And there's some guy I know that he's had a bad habit since 2020 of saying, "I'm just gonna watch a couple TikTok videos and fall asleep, and then 4 hours later the sun's up, and he might look like me."
Yeah, actually, that's one of the radio shows that I did was all about light and sleep and the blue
Mm-hmm.
light. I actually got the opportunity to interview the gentleman who discovered the wavelength of blue light that actually causes us the most problems.
Wow.
And, as we move more into like everything these days is LED lights, like even your light bulbs, right, at home are
Mm-hmm.
LED lights these days because they're less expensive and they last longer and all this stuff. But when you look at them, if you go into the store to buy an LED light bulb, you can buy anywhere from like the warmer, more yellowish, orangey color, all the way up to this really bright blue, shocking light.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're trying to stay awake, well, blue light is part of what we see from the sun and things like that. But if you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
go to bed, those things throw off your circadian rhythm. So it's really important. Like I tell everybody on your mobile phone and things like that, there's settings where you can change to like a night mode, which reduces the blue light aspect. But clearly, if you're going to go to bed and sleep well, we try and get you off of screens and anything like that an hour or so before you're actually going to sleep.
An hour before. Okay.
It's
You,
helpful, yeah.
yeah. I know that there's settings for this on my Samsung phone,
Hmm.
and I think they're called. I thought I saw it the other day. There was a thing, but I do know that, man. If I go to sleep and I wake up to hit the restroom, I'm 56.
Hmm.
That's about 20 times a night. It's not that bad, but I could have sworn there was something in. Maybe it's
There's
in some different area.
on the iPhone they call it night mode, I believe. On the
Hmm.
Android, it depends on the phone.
There's an eye comfort shield that's on here. I don't know
Hmm.
if that does what it does, but I think that's designed a little bit. But um, but what was it going on about? See, I've only had 3.5
You were
hours of
you were
sleep.
talking about waking in the middle of the night and and
Oh
and how
yeah,
light
if I
impacts you.
look at my phone, like if I wake in the middle of the night and I go look at my phone, oof, that boom, that brain is like, we're on, baby.
Hmm.
Yeah, don't even bother trying to go back to sleep. What about that? I just got some new humidifiers for the house, and one in my bedroom has got one of those red lights that or magenta lights. It's supposed to melatonin. I think is that what it is?
Well, look, so there's a lot of things. Melatonin is tied into your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is tied into the light that's around you. So there's a lot of pieces that go on. But generally, rule of thumb, the darker your room, the better. So if
Mm.
you have any kind of thing, and this is the challenge, because everything you have has one of those little tiny LED lights to tell you the power is going to it until you put it in a dark room at night and it lights up the whole room.
Yeah.
So I tell people either remove all those things from your room or get some black electrical tape or something and put it over those things. You want a dark, dark room. Room darkening shades. You don't want to be able to see anything if you can avoid it.
You want soul sucking darkness of space, basically.
You do. You
Like
do.
you want a black hole paint or something. I know there's a paint that they have that is like so black it absorbs so much light that like you can't even see it. Maybe that's why I need to paint my room. I've seen him paint cars and like I've seen him paint cars and like rooms. YouTubers have gone and paint rooms with it, and
Hmm.
you go in and you start losing perspective because there's no light. It
Wow.
eats light basically. Yeah, my
Wow.
first 7 marriages, but I don't know what that's about. What are some other things we haven't discussed that you want to tease out on the book and that?
Well, the point is that as we start to learn more about sleep, there's a lot of common sleep disorders that people have. So you talk about insomnia, you
Hmm.
talk about nightmares, you talk about sleep apnea. And these things are really important to treat, and there are treatments for them, but people sometimes don't think to treat them, like apnea, for example. Well, they're
Hmm.
asleep when it's happening, so they don't recognize that it's happening. But for some reason, they wake up and they're always tired during the day and they don't know
Yeah.
why.
Huh.
And if you don't treat sleep apnea, that gives real damage to your cardiovascular system. Also, it gives real damage to your marriage if you're sleeping with someone and they're tired of hearing you snore and gasp for air all night, and then they want to sleep in another room. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of sleep issues.
Yeah. I've had that movie. I think I had a girlfriend punch me once in the sleep, just trying to get me to quit snoring. Because I snore like a bear, evidently. Is so sleep apnea is the thing. I always tease people that do the surgery and have the Darth Vader mask. I always call it, and it's interesting to me. A lot of them don't seem to sleep well either. I've even had a friend who had the surgical $30,000 thing put in his chest.
Hmm.
That's
The
supposed to be
Inspire
the
system.
internal, yeah,
Hmm.
and he doesn't sleep for shit. It doesn't work for him for some reason. But
Yeah.
maybe you know why.
Well, so number one, there's different types of sleep apnea. There's obstructive sleep apnea, which basically means that your airway kind of collapses when you're
Yeah.
sleeping, so you can't get
That's
the
when
air
I'm
in.
choking out my girlfriend now. Don't do that, folks.
Right.
That's when I'm choking someone to death because I'm sick of their bullshit.
That's kind of what your body is doing to you. It's
Yeah.
choking you. So that's your obstructive. Then there's
It's
central
trying to
sleep
kill
apnea.
itself. My body's trying to kill me.
Right. But central sleep apnea is more of a nervous, tied to the nerves and all. But
Huh.
basically, still, it means that you are having um, symptoms throughout the night where you stop breathing. And then your body finally recognizes, hey, I need air. I need air. And it goes, and you get this big gasp of air because your body's about to shut down if it doesn't get it. And
Hmm.
then, of course, that can wake you up, maybe not fully wake you up, but you never get restful sleep because you never get into that stage 3 sleep, which is where you
Wow.
get your rest. And so the good news is these days, you talk about the CPAP machine, which is the machine next to your bed, and it's got a hose tied to your face and a mask and all that. A lot of people don't like that, and a lot of them don't use it. But there are other devices out there now.
Oh,
There's
really?
there's dental devices, which is basically something you put in your mouth and it kind of pulls your lower jaw forward, which helps to
Mm-hmm.
open the airway. That works
Do
for
those
some
really
people.
work?
For some people, it does,
We had
mostly for the less severe cases.
we had a guy on the show that does that, and he indicated that I have TMJ or
Hmm.
TMG, yeah, TMJ, and I've had it all my life, and he indicated that that's one of the problems with having TMJ or developing TAJ is you're grinding at night or you're doing something at night with your
Hmm.
jaw and breathing and so that it could help. And I just kind of went, well, that's an interesting story you got there. I don't
But
know.
that's only one of the other treatments. There's
Oh,
in some cases there's surgical treatments. In some
mm-hmm.
cases, people opt for the Inspire, which is kind of like a little pacemaker that
Yeah.
looking device. You've got new devices out that instead of pushing air into you, which is what a CPAP does, it's in your mouth instead of over your nose and mouth, and it pulls air out of you, thus
Hmm.
keeping the system open. So there's a lot of different technology coming out. We were talking about technology before, so there's how it's improving
Yeah.
sleep.
My first 6 marriages were sucking air out of me.
And
I
money too, I bet.
had to pay extra for that. Yeah. Uh, we change the number every time. That's what makes it fun. Kids. What was the question I had for you? So this Darth Vader fuckery actually works for some people, I guess, huh?
If used as prescribed, it actually does work. I actually have one myself, and it took a little bit of getting used to, but now if I don't use it, I can't really sleep well.
Did you have your tonsils or whatever they remove? There's like some surgery where they remove stuff. I think it's
No,
lobotomy or something.
well, there's different surgeries. There's removing tonsils sometimes. The whole idea is to remove any obstructions in your throat and in your
Mm.
airway. Some people have like fatty tissue inside that is obstructing, so they'll remove that. So there's a lot of different surgeries depending on the individual's
Mine's usually a
situation.
steak or something. And I imagine eating before bed is pretty bad. I mean, I've had times where I've gone to bed and there's just some gut rot in my gut that's just not having a good time.
Yeah, yeah. Now we tell people to have your last, full meal at least an hour before bed, if not
Wow.
more.
Wow.
And the other thing is, we remind people don't drink a lot of liquid just before you get into bed because now you're going to start to get up all night to go use the bathroom.
Yeah. Have you in your clinical studies and helping people? Is there any way to try and reduce those pee breaks other than what you just mentioned?
Well, so yeah, there's a couple things. Number one, obviously not drinking a whole lot before you get into bed. But number
Mm-hmm.
two, think about what you're drinking. If you're drinking, and we don't want you drinking caffeine prior to
Yeah.
bed, but if you're drinking coffee, tea, things that are diuretics, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
be pulling water out of your body throughout the night. So you're better off
Yeah.
with just plain water. So yeah, there's different things you can do but as you get older, expect you're going to get up a couple times a night, and the older you get, probably the more times. And if you're a woman after menopause, probably more times.
Wow. That would explain what my mom goes through because my mom's 82, and I think we have the same complaint because we both get up a lot, and I try to drink water a lot. Let me
Mm-hmm.
ask you about this because this has been a thing that sometimes I'm worried about shit that I'm having a heart attack in the middle of the night. I get that. I think it's the restless leg syndrome, where it's like somebody almost sends a lightning bolt through my leg or my, is that restless leg syndrome? Is that what that is, or am I having a serious stroke?
So there's a lot of things that can be going on there. One thing is called hypnic jerks. Another thing,
Yeah.
we've got restless leg syndrome. We've got um, nocturnal panic attacks. We've got
Wow.
there's a lot of different things that
Jeez.
have some similarities, but they're all different in certain ways too.
Huh. I have this thing where I mean, it feels like literally electric shock will go up my leg or something, and
It-
I'll almost leap out of freaking bed, and I'm
mhm.
wondering if I'm going into some sort of like, do I need to call 911? It's not
Generally,
fun.
no. That's probably just a hypnic jerk or something like that, where your
Oh,
your muscles, and your nerves are just sort of saying to you, "Hey, you're getting old, and we're going to remind you about
no, thanks. That's great.
it."
Like I needed more memos of that. Like I needed more memos. Can we just stick with the birthday thing? Send me a card, please, Mr. Legs. So let's talk about some of the things that you guys do. I guess at your clinic, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I think this is something that's important for your audience to understand. There are sleep doctors, meaning medical doctors that have sleep clinics. And then there's behavioral sleep medicine,
Oh,
which is more from the mental health side. So, what's
mm,
the difference? The
drugs.
difference is medical doctors will run like a sleep clinic where they'll have a sleep study. You go in overnight and they hook all these wires and machines
Oh
to
yeah.
you, and they study you and determine what's going on. Medical doctors will prescribe the sleeping pills and the medications that are only supposed to be used short term in almost all cases, but people
Mm,
tend to use for a very long time to their detriment, in my personal opinion.
mm,
When you get to the mental health side, there's a lot of treatments. It's called like insomnia is a big
mm.
issue that people will come with. And there's the gold standard treatment, according to all the science and all the research, is called CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And it's a very specific process you go through to take a person who's having trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early, and they're up throughout the night and their sleep is all fragmented. And it brings it back together where they get a solid night of restful sleep over a period of a couple weeks. We kind of get them retrained, and it's amazing to see it when it works. Now, it works about 75% of the time, not 100% of the time. So that's one thing. You get people with nightmares that wake them up, and it's just this recurring thing that's just scaring them and waking them up. So we've got a treatment for nightmares.
Wow.
There's a lot of different sleep treatments that are available that don't require medications and are more effective than the medications, according to the science.
There you go. Sounds like my first 5 marriages and lots of nightmares. I don't know why. This is the callback joke of the show. Please, just run with it. Yeah, that's really interesting. What do you feel about melatonin? There's this, I try and take that before bed. I mean, that sounds like it sounds like from what you've referred to, a lot of these so-called, drugs or enhancements or stuff, they might be good for short term, but for long term, your body kind of probably adjusts to them and says, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, melatonin is a great question because a lot of people, rely on it. So let me tell you about melatonin. So we've got prescription sleep medications that you're going to get from the MD. And then we've got these over-the-counter things. In the US, melatonin is available over the counter. Now, in reality, your body, if you were going to take melatonin, you really only need about 0.5 milligrams. But when you go into the drugstore, you find 5 milligram and 10 milligram capsules or medicines for melatonin. The challenge with melatonin is if you start taking melatonin, the concern is that your body that naturally makes melatonin may stop naturally making it because it's already there. It doesn't need to make it because you're taking these supplements. But then you get hooked on these supplements. And the reality is melatonin is part of that sort of circadian rhythm where when it gets dark outside, your body produces melatonin, which tells your body it's time to kind of go to sleep and rest. And then as the light comes up, the melatonin reduces and you become more awake. So we use melatonin sparingly, but in those cases where, for example, you've got a post 50-year-old woman who's waking a lot in the middle of the night, right? So we may use melatonin as a supplement to help reduce some of that. Or certain other circadian rhythm disorders, maybe we'll use that. But I actually have one right here. I've got circadian rhythm disorders are based on light. This is a light box. It looks like a little iPad, but it gives you a certain type of light that helps to adjust your circadian rhythms. So, everything is sort of individualized. You have to know what the patient is actually dealing with, and you have to come up with a treatment that's right for their situation.
There you go. So it sounds like they have to basically come to you, and you kind of help assess what's going wrong in their life, what their issues are, all that sort of good stuff, and it just depends case by case, right? Is that
Yeah.
an analogy?
Yeah. I mean, when someone comes to me, the very first thing that I'm going to do is this very lengthy assessment because I want to find out what sleep problems are going on, if any. I want to know about co-occurring disorders. I want to know what they've been doing about it. Maybe they're on meds, maybe they're not. Maybe they're taking medications for something else that causes a sleep problem. There's so many variables. This is why you need a professional to be able to review this. You can't just go online and look it up because it's a lot more complicated than a simple, black-white type of answer.
Yeah. It sounds like, and so do people have to come to the clinic, or can this be done over the internet, Zoom calls, things of that nature?
It's all telehealth because it's just questions, analysis of the situation that's going on. There's not anything that I could do if they were sitting in front of me that I can't do if they're sitting in front of me on the computer.
Wow, there you go. So you can get help, man. We should. I mean, this sounds like a great business to be in because everybody I know suffers from sleep issues right now. They either have the sleep apnea dealio thingy deal, or they're like, I mean, there's a lot of stress in today's world, a lot of inflation and problems, and politics, and meth, and all these things that keep people awake. And people are just trying to, survive. Just trying to
Well,
get
it's,
along.
you know, there's a shortage out there of sleep professionals. And the reason there's a shortage is because number one, the whole sleep industry is new. Number two, they don't teach people about sleep issues when they're in training for mental health or physical health occupations. And
Mhm.
so it takes someone to say, hey, I want to go learn this stuff myself so that I can treat these patients. And it takes a lot of work. You don't just like read an article and then start treating sleep. You got to learn what's going on, and it takes time and it takes effort.
Hmm. There you go.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. And so, how do they onboard with you? How do they reach out? How do they find out more?
So most people will just go to our website, which is the nationalsleepcenter.com, and there's a contact form there, and they fill it out, and then we give them a call and we talk to them about their situation. And again, that's why I put out. So the radio show Sleep Science Today, it's on UK Health Radio Network. Now that's out of the United Kingdom, but they broadcast to 54 English speaking countries, and about a third of the listeners come from the US. But once the show goes out, a week later, it goes up on my YouTube channel. It goes up on all the different podcast networks. So it's readily available. And that's another way that people find out about us, because they start to learn about issues that may be impacting them or a family member or something else. And then they can, again, get back to our website and reach out to us that way.
Ah, and on the website it says 6 weeks to a restful sleep. How does that work?
So generally, when you're talking about insomnia, like I was talking about before, and the
Mhm.
CBTI treatment,
Mhm.
generally within 6 weeks of treatment, if you have chronic insomnia, you're going to start to see a major change. Now, I've had patients literally in 4 weeks, they were doing great. I've had other patients that it could be twice that time. Everyone is unique and individual. But in general, the science says about 6 to 8 weeks for CBTI is what you need to be able to make the change.
There you go. Yeah, 6 weeks, and you can sleep better after that. What
Yeah.
is the? I guess as long as we're here, what is the optimum time for sleep? Is it 7 hours, 8 hours, or 24 hours?
So fantastic question. Everybody hears, oh, you need 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is, like we were talking about before, number one, depending on your age, there's going to be
Oh,
different amounts of sleep you need. Like we
and
said,
probably a woman
teenagers.
too. You mentioned menopausal women have more issues, right?
Yeah, well, really, obviously, little babies
Oh,
they sleep a whole lot more, right? And then teenagers tend to have a lot of sleep need. And then as you get older, why do we have things like the blue plate special and all those things? Because as we get older, we tend to go to bed earlier and
mhm.
wake earlier, but we also tend to sleep less, or we get up in the night more
Oh,
often. So it changes throughout our lives. And then on top of that, everybody's system is different. So there's
hmm.
6 hour sleepers and there's 9 hour sleepers,
Really,
and neither one is right or wrong. It depends on your
really.
particular system.
So people can get away with that, huh? I think I heard about a certain politician who would sleep 4 hours a day, or he claimed to sleep only 4 hours a night, but I know he has an Adderall problem. But I mean, can you survive on 4 hours of sleep?
It,
Anybody?
if someone comes to me and they tell me, oh, I haven't slept in nights, or I only sleep 4 hours a night,
Mm,
immediately my thought is that that's just not possible. What's happening is you may think you're only sleeping 4 hours and you're not aware of it, or you may be sleeping 4 hours, but then throughout the day you're catching micro naps or other things. I've had plenty of patients who come to me and they tell me that, oh man, I didn't sleep at all, the last 3 nights or whatever. And then we dig into it. It's like, I remember one, I'm saying you have to be sleeping somewhere because your body won't function. You will die if you're not sleeping, but your body's not going to let you die. So it's going to sleep.
hmm.
And then he says, well, it is funny. Sometimes I'll sit down on the couch to watch a TV show, and I remember the show starting. And next thing I know, the ending credits are rolling. Well, because you were napping. That's why. That's where you're getting your sleep. So yes, you're gonna get the sleep, just like your body's gonna breathe, and you can hold your breath and try to hold it as long as you can. But at some point, your body's gonna breathe, regardless,
Mhm.
right? Same
Yeah.
thing with sleep. You're going to sleep. You may not get restful, consistent sleep, but you're going to get sleep somehow. Hopefully, not when you're behind the wheel of the car. That happens too.
Definitely. That I actually blinked and fell asleep for a quick second this Sunday night. I was at a light and I was coming home from an event, and for some reason I was having trouble staying awake.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was running on 4 hours of sleep, and this has never happened to me. I don't think I've ever blinked driving a car in, I don't know, 20 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when I was young or something. I did. I think I did fall asleep when I was traveling one time, and that was kind of crazy. But I was really young. But yeah, I was at the light, and suddenly I went into a dream state. I was sitting there, and I didn't feel that tired. I've had times where I'm yawning, and I just can't stop yawning. Or I'll be nodding, and I'll kind of jerk my head to try and stay
Mm-hmm.
awake, and then finally I just pull over and get a 5 hour energy or something. But I thought I was doing okay, and then I just blanked at the light, and there was no one behind me to wake me up. And if I would have stayed kind of I went into a dream state. Like I went
Mm-hmm.
right in, and I woke up, and the car in front of me had passed through the light and was, I don't know, about 20 yards down through the light. And what really kind of scared me was if I had gone into some sort of deeper sleep and pulled my foot off the brake, I would have
Mm-hmm.
rolled right into this the state highway, and the
See,
driver probably not ended well.
well, people don't realize that sleepy driving is just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than driving under the influence of
Wow.
alcohol or some other substance. And people don't think about it because it's like, well, I didn't drink anything. I didn't take anything. I'm just tired. Well,
Hmm.
but then you get these micro sleeps. And just like you said, you end up not stopping at a light or rolling into an intersection or, all sorts of things happen. And sleepy driving is something that we're not totally aware of because it doesn't get as much press as drunk driving does, but it's pretty much just as dangerous.
Wow. There you go. Well, I kind of found that out. That kind of I've been driving for about 30 minutes, and I kept like, you should just pull off and grab a 5 hour energy. And I usually keep a 5 hour energy in my bag, and I don't know, it's freakiest thing that's ever happened to me in a long time. I was like, holy crap, there it is.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna be a little more watching for that. But yeah, I've been struggling with sleep for late. I go in periods. Like sometimes I'm just doing 8 hours of sleep and I'm doing fine, and I'll keep a schedule. And then sometimes I go on this weird sort of vampirish thing where I don't have a wife and kids, and I lived in Vegas for a long time. And in Vegas, you almost live like a vampire at night because you go grocery shopping at 10 p.m. because number one, you can, and number two, it's hot as fuck during the day. So
Yeah.
everybody's out at night trying to be cool and get shit done. And so I've had those things, and yeah, I don't know. But this book is going to be definitely paramount. I've got it on my Amazon cart right now, and I think everyone should check it out. And then, of course, reach out to you. And I know you have a free consultation on your website as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. People can call us and we'll talk to them and do, like a 15-minute consultation with them and try
Mm-hmm.
and get a sense of what's going on and tell them whether it's something we can help them with or not. And,
Mm-hmm.
the good news is, like I said, number one, a lot of people don't recognize the sleep problems that they can have. And number two, they don't know that there's help that's available for a lot of
Oh,
the sleep problems.
there you go. Yeah, and you've answered so many questions. Like you are the source of
I,
everything.
I,
I'm
I try to
referring
read
to
a
you.
lot and learn a lot.
I'm going to referring every. I know the guy who knows everything about sleep.
I
He's the
wouldn't say
sleep.
that.
He's the sleep god. Well, I'm glad somebody's
I've had the
studying
best
this.
professors. I'll tell you that. I really have learned a lot.
There you go. Well, I'm trying to learn a lot, mainly just how to just for sleep. But you're right about the lights in the room. So the new humidifier puts off a light. It's got a screen. There was a lot of times where I used to wonder what this weird blue light was across the room from me, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, are there aliens in the room? And it was like this little tiny light on one of those special plugs that was
Mm-hmm.
designed to have a USB port on it that you plug into
Mm-hmm.
your normal plug. It had a little tiny light, and I never really noticed it, but I would wake up looking at it, going, "What's going on? Is this the anal probe time? Is P Diddy here? Where's the baby bell?" That's another reason I don't sleep well, is I'm always worried about him sneaking up on me. So.
Well, that one we don't have a cure for, but the little lights we do, because
Well, the
you
Justice
don't.
Department took care of that cure.
But it is truly amazing, and I encourage your audience to think about this. If they wake up at night and their room is not totally dark, look at the light source, and you'll find one of those teeny little LED lights like you're describing. It's amazing how bright they make your room, and that's why you got to cover them with tape or get rid of them.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Final thoughts as we go out. Tell people how they can onboard with you, where they can pick up the book, the .coms, and all that good stuff.
Great. Yeah. So the book is Why Can't I Sleep Well? It's available on Amazon. You can find it there. If you want to listen to the radio show, just go to sleepsciencetoday.com, and we've got links to you can see us, on YouTube, or you can hear us on UK Health Radio or several different podcasts. All the links are there. And if you're looking for help with sleep from a clinical perspective, you can go to nationalsleepcenter.com and contact us there through that form on the website, and we will get back to you and talk to you, like I said, a free consult initially, and see if we can help you out.
There you go. Well, this should be very interesting. I'm definitely going to order it up and find out more about you, and probably refer my mother and everybody I know. Like I said, I got one friend who had the Inspire put in, and
Mm-hmm.
he just thinks that was a waste of money, for at least him personally. And I'm just like, God, you had a surgery to put that in. Like, you have something inside your body that isn't natural, and it doesn't work either.
Yeah, that's hard when you do something and then it
Yeah,
doesn't work. I
yeah,
mean, it does work for a lot of people, but then there's a lot of people that it's not
yeah,
right for.
yeah,
That's why I said all these sleep treatments are so individualized.
yeah. I also put something in my body that didn't work at a Diddy party, but don't do that, folks. Anyway, the jokes. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, and hopefully you will help me solve all my problems, Andrew, at least the sleep ones. There's an infinite number of the rest, so, just one off the list that I can. Although eventually, I'll be doing the big sleep, and I guess I won't be waking up from that. So
Yeah, we don't have a treatment for that one yet.
see if you can look into that. I'll wait for
I got
Sure.
my lab. We're working on it.
Working on it. There you go. All right. Well, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much, Andrew, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thank you for yours and your knowledge, sir. Order up the book where refined books are sold, folks. Why Can't I Sleep Well? 150 common questions asked and answered. It would have been a funnier title if you said, Why Can't I Sleep Well, damn it?
That's the second book.
Why can't I sleep well still? Damn it. Anyway, thanks for tuning into my audience. Go to goodreads.com / Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com / Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok and all this crazy place. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. There you go.